Do we have the Honorable Lanny Davis with us?
We have the honorable guest who sat next to the most beautiful wife that you probably do not deserve.
Hey, listen, I had my
on national television. She was fantastic.
I had my eye on you, pal, the whole time.
Well,
I hope
you should.
I hope you know that. Yeah,
and
you and Jerry did a good job on Sean Hannity's show. He even lets you get in a word edgewise every once in a while, huh?
Only because of Jerry, and then afterwards I saw your two beautiful children, and you're a lucky man, Senator.
Well, I certainly am. I appreciate that. You are absolutely right. I am lucky, but that's not going to keep me from working you over today.
I was trying.
Lanny Davis is former White House counsel to President Clinton, and he's a member of the. I used to practice law. I know you might appreciate this. He's a member of the McDermott, Will, and Emery Regulatory and Government Strategies Practice Group, and He's a great lawyer here in town, even if his politics are a little askew every once in a while. But we appreciate you coming on, Lanny. You did do a good job the other night, and I was proud of Jerry as usual. And we got a lot of important issues that we're trying to ferret out here. But just tell me this: let's talk about the health care bill for a moment. Do you really think that they can pass anything worthy of the name in their lights, in terms of the kind of reforms that they want to make, public option or no public option, without adding to the deficit?
I don't think they can do 100%. It's too expensive in one swallow. I think that was probably the problem with President Clinton and the First Lady when they tried it in the 90s. But I do think, yes, Senator, that they can do incremental reform and do less than 100% and at least solve the basic problem of the system, which is that there are too many people who are denied insurance who risk their lives and their families' health care because they can't afford health insurance. Well, that part of it we will get done, the uninsured.
Well, there you have it, folks. Lanny Davis saying that all they want to do is get the camel's nose under the tent.
Exactly.
Well,
I can't get anything past you. You're exactly right. We need to get, or another way to say it is we need to start the slope heading down in the right direction. You'd say it's a slippery slope, but it's the same argument.
Well, I appreciate it. As usually you're very candid about these things, and I've been saying the same thing. I mean, that's the history of other entitlement programs. You start out, whether it's chips for the children or whether it's Medicaid or whatnot, you start out at a place. In fact, that and you go from there. In fact, it seemed to me that the history of Senator Ted Kennedy's career was in that, and he was often willing to take a half a loaf or a quarter loaf and join with and Republicans sometimes because Republicans weren't smart enough to figure out what he was doing, and I think that's what they're doing again today, and I think the liberals probably maybe do not understand that, and are causing him a lot of grief because of that. But I think that's what they have in mind, and what they'll probably be trying to explain to their left to give them a little slack and just let them take whatever they can get and go from there, huh?
There's a great story about Senator Kennedy. Orrin Hatch tells it, who was, as you know, Senator Thompson, one of Ted Kennedy's closest personal friends. Mm-hmm. Orrin Hatch, left and right didn't matter. Orrin Hatch loves to tell the story that in 1974, or right after the 72 election, I forget which, Richard Nixon went to Ted Kennedy with a proposal for a national health care system that would have required mandatory insurance by everyone, like a driver's license, mm-hmm. and like driver's insurance, same argument we're making today. And Ted Kennedy said no because it wouldn't have had 100% universal coverage. Mm-hmm. And Nixon then canned it because he ran into opposition among Republicans anyway. Going back on 74 or so, Kennedy went back to Nixon before he left Washington, said, can we do that again? Because I think we really should have done it incrementally. Kennedy always regretted and learned that lesson, I think, early in his career, that incremental change is what the American people can absorb. If you do more than that, they get scared.
Well, we're at a good place here in our conversation, because I think you and I are both saying the same thing. You're saying that it will be a good result. I'm saying it will be a bad result, but at least we can agree on what's happening. I think that there's another area, though, in which we can agree, and that is the moral consistency or inconsistency of some of our liberal friends with regard to Israel and what's happening there. You wrote recently on that. Tell us what your thoughts are about that.
Well, the absolute contradiction between people who call themselves liberals, value civil liberties, human rights, due process, anti-nuclear proliferation, and find themselves, whenever the subject comes up, jumping on Israel and siding with people who want to indict Israel as war criminals because they defended themselves against a terrorist organization called Hamas shooting rockets at civilians. So I guess I was reflecting on the contradiction among my fellow liberals. There were demonstrations in the streets when Israel was defending itself, in my view, against these terrorist rockets by going into Gaza on a temporary intervention. And there were demonstrations on the streets throughout Europe and even in the United States. Yet when the Iranians and the thugs were slitting people's throats and beating up people in the streets after the fraudulent election of Ahmadinejad, the Holocaust denier, I saw nobody demonstrating anywhere.
Why do you think that is, Lanny? Even in the high councils of the United Nations, the Human Rights Council, isn't that Netanyahu pointed out, misnamed institution if there ever was one? Why do you think that is? I mean, you find this sentiment in Europe and of course other places around the world too. This double standard against this little democratic country in the midst of these threats. Well,
I have to say conversely that the polling data in the United States, well, it still shows heavy favoritism, favorable opinions toward Israel versus the Arab states. That if you look at it demographically, politically, that conservatives are far more supportive and Republicans are far more supportive of Israel than Democrats and liberals, just relatively speaking. So it's the same question, why? And I have to tell you, I often try to answer questions even if I have no idea what the answer is. I do not have an answer. It's simply a contradiction and a hypocrisy that liberals will not confront. I would say mainstream liberals are very pro-Israel, but it's more on the hard left where you see these contradictions.
Yeah.
Lanny, we were visiting with some folks from California who are big members of AIPAC, which is a big political group that supports, Israel and anything that was related to security in Israel. And they were telling me that they find more support from Christian groups than they are finding from some of their own Jewish members.
My best friend and godfather of my son, Joe Lieberman, always makes the point that the greatest reception that he gets when he talks about Israel is when he's talking to evangelical Christians. Some of that is theologically based. They do see Israel as the place where Christianity began, and Jesus was a Jew, and there's a lot of evangelical theology about Israel. But I also think that conservatives do see Israel as a bulwark against the war on terror. They are a democracy that stands up to terrorism, exposed to terrorism, has their children killed by terrorism. As horrible as 9/11 was, it doesn't compare to the number of people who have been killed by terrorists in Israel. And that, I think, is a blind spot for my fellow liberals.
Lanny, thank you very, very much. We're agreeing an awful lot today. We'll cure that later on, maybe. But appreciate you being with us. Always appreciate your viewpoint.